In this video, I got more books to show off to you guys in a haul I'm calling Specs on Deck. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video with Swaggle. And in this video, I got more books to show off to you guys in a video that I'm calling Specs on Deck. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, when I pick up some of these books that I show off in the other comic book haul videos, sometimes I don't show all the books I got because there are certain books that I, pick up for just a few dollars. And in those books, I'm not really as interested in showing them to you guys, or, I don't want the video to be too long. So I typically just, take them out of the haul, and I just choose not to talk about them. But this pile right here is a group of books that I have actually collected over the last few weeks, acquiring them. And I felt like it might be kind of cool to talk about them in a video like this and call it Specs on Deck, because, I'm picking these up specifically for spec reasons, but, these aren't books that I would necessarily make a spec video about. Like I certainly wouldn't do a sleeper spec books with Swaggle video on any of these books. But, I feel like maybe this is worth still talking about to you guys and just kind of having a conversation. It's almost like if a stand-up comedian has a routine, like this is like a workshop routine talking about, interesting books that I am acquiring for myself, but ones that I'm not really ready to, promote as spec books, if that makes sense in any kind of way. But before I get into the pile, if you guys could drop me a like or comment or subscribe if you're enjoying the content, help support the channel, do one of those things, and I would appreciate it. All right, that said, let us get into the good stuff here. And again, these are just books that I think are interesting, and I kind of wanted to talk about them to you guys, and let me know what you guys think about a video like this. All right, the first one I picked up is a cover that I have always loved. This is one of my ultimate favorite covers, honestly, in comic books. This is a John Buscema cover, and this is Avengers number 277. Now, what is the significance of this? Well, there isn't too much significance of this other than the fact of, eventually Baron Zemo, he reinvigorates the Masters of Evil, and he does this big Avengers plot where he takes over their mansion, and this is the culmination of that eventual battle. So you could say that this is the death of the Masters of Evil. This is the end of the Masters of Evil. Of course, after this would eventually lead to Baron Zemo, making his way to the Thunderbolts team. But this is just one of those covers that, always pulls me in every time I see it. And one of my issues with Baron Zemo, his first appearances as a character, is that all his first appearances, the arguable ones like First Phoenix or Cap 275, etc., the covers just leave something to be desired. And this is one of the great sort of Zemo covers, in my opinion, in an Avengers title. And because it's by John Buscema, I feel like this is a cover that, if this one starts to get a little bit of traction in the market, or we start to get Zemo in some kind of event film going up against the Avengers in some kind of way, maybe we get the Masters of Evil of some kind, kind of like how the Kang books all sort of pop off, just because people love the Kang on the cover. This is a book that I feel like could follow a similar path. So Avengers 277, one of my favorite books. This would actually be a book that I would consider getting slabbed for myself, just to have it in a slab, because I think it's so striking. I find myself really, really drawn to covers that are blue covers. Secret Wars #1 comes to mind, things like that. I don't know. This next book here is a very cool one. This is Invincible Iron Man number 86, and this is the first appearance of a character known as Blizzard here. Now, this is one of those interesting situations where, technically speaking, this is a character also known as Jack Frost. He made an appearance in a early Tales of Suspense book, and then eventually later on in the Iron Man run, he would be revamped into this character known as Blizzard. This character eventually would die, and we would get a second Blizzard. But this one, I think, would be the one in the market that would probably take off if we do get a Blizzard character. And I'm interested in this book here. I'm interested in a lot of the Iron Man bad guys, because we all know we're going to get armor wars. So all these characters like Constrictor, Titanium Man, Crimson Dynamo, Blizzard, Living Laser, all these characters that have history and precedent going up against Iron Man with some kind of tech armor, tech suit. I think that these are all characters that are on the table to come into a Armor Wars show. So this one I think is really interesting. One that I tend to pick this one up every time I come across it, especially if it's being sold for $5. So very, very cool one in my opinion. First appearance of Blizzard, you never really know. All right, this next one is one that has gotten actually pretty hot recently, and I'm actually really disappointed in myself that I didn't think of this one for Spec, but this is Ghost Rider #2, first appearance of a character known as Blackout. Now, all I really remember about the Blackout character was that, you know, in those Marvel trading cards, he had a couple cards in those first couple series, so I always remember Blackout as a character, and this one right here is his first appearance. Of course, this is in the 1990 run of Ghost Rider, and there's been a lot of talk and rumors and speculation that Blackout might be the main villain to go against the Ghost Rider character. And I think this is a really good Spec overall. Blackout, just one of those characters, kind of like Blackheart, son of Mephisto, I feel like fits perfectly into those, you know, horror villain ensemble, you know, group of characters. I feel like once we get shows like Blade and Morbius and Tomb of Dracula or whatever, Werewolf by Night, those are the type of villains that these guys are going to need to go against. So I like this one a lot. Found this one for $7. Pretty good deal overall. I think you can find decent deals for this on eBay for like 15 or so. All right, this next book here is not really like a non-Spec. I mean, this is just a classic book, but I picked up another copy of Web of Spider-Man #1. I actually had one. I gave it away for my 1,000 subscriber giveaway, but I found another one that I decided to pick up, and this is just a classic book to me. Now, I'll probably eventually do, you know, a video series that talks about like books to invest in, etc. And you know, if I ever do one like a Como comic book, shout out to Como comic books. If I ever do one that's kind of like you know, what books to invest in for like $25 or so, this would definitely be one on there, because I think that this is always going to be a desired cover. It is always going to be a classic Web of Spider-Man #1. I mean, even though Web of Spider-Man is like the third most important Spider-Man run, I still think it's a classic. People have a fondness to it. So for that reason, I think that this is a book that is always going to, if not maintain value, continue to go up in value. Everyone's always going to want to have this one. I mean, when you see this book in person, like, it's really striking. It's just the art style on it. So it really, really draws you in. And I think it's a good book to have for anybody's collection. All right, this next book I have right here is a really cool one. This is Marvel Feature #6, featuring Presents Red Sonja. One of the reasons why I picked this one up is that this, in my opinion, is the first appearance of the character known as Set. Now, Set is a character that relates to, you know, Chthon, relates to Gaia. He's got that Norse mythology thing going on for himself. Of course, Set is a character that belongs in other mythoses within context to, you know, fantasy worlds. But this is, in my opinion, his first appearance in Marvel comic books. Set eventually is like the deity that, you know, controls the serpent crown, etc. And I feel like it's possible that one day we get some kind of plot line involving Set in some kind of way. Now, a lot of people would tell you that Set's first appearance is in Submariner #9. That's what Key Collector would say. I don't think that that's accurate. There's references to, you know, this god, serpent god, but we don't actually see Set. In fact, we only see Snake Men in that book. There's other arguable appearances of where we see this character, but in my opinion, this is the one where we see the first panel of the character in its version that we know Set to be. So this is one that I think is really interesting. Not a book that you would find on Key Collector, you know, CGC. If you were able to find this one slab, it's not going to reference this as the first appearance of Set. You have to just go onto Marvel Wiki to find that this is the first appearance of that character. So one that I think is interesting, but it's going to be hard because, like, you know, if the market doesn't catch up to these types of things, it's hard for them to recognize that as the first appearance. All right, this next book here is Marvel 2-in-1 #53. What is the significance of this? Well, this is the origin of Quasar, specifically how Marvel Boy turns into Quasar. And I think this is a really cool book. Again, Quasar, an interesting character. Hard to say what we're going to get with him if we get him in the MCU, because we have the female version of Quasar. It feels like that would be a good, you know, gender swap for them to do if they do want to bring Quasar into the MCU. I feel like Disney's just going to want to go with the female one just to bring more diversity in. It's not like Quasar has a massive following. I mean, sorry to the Quasar fans out there, but I don't know if we're going to get this version of Quasar if we do get a Quasar in the MCU. But regardless, I decided to pick this one up. Origin of the character. Felt like it might be a good pickup regardless. All right, this is a book that I talk about all the time. This is Captain Marvel #46. first appearance of Supremer. This is the personification of the Supreme Intelligence. Oh, I thought Supreme Intelligence was on the cover. He's not. But Supremor is like, you know, the when Supreme Intelligence needs to be in a body and like do some things, he goes into Supremor. And I feel like that just makes a lot of sense that, you know, when we get Captain Marvel 2, if she's going to go up against the Supreme Intelligence, which I would think she is going to fight the Supreme Intelligence, they're going to need him in punching form. So this right here makes perfect sense that they would bring Supremer into the MCU. And so I decided to pick up this book. Anytime I come across this book at a really good deal, I pick it up. And so that was another time that I did that. And it's one that, you know, I see all the time for like $3 or $4. So definitely a great spec book in my opinion. All right, these next two books I think are really cool. These are Secret Wars by Jonathan Hickman. This is the #1 issue, and this is the #9 issue. I think that this one is just one of those pure cover buys. I feel like if, in fact, we get Fantastic Four and Doctor Doom and we build towards Secret Wars in some kind, I think that they're going to follow the Hickman version of Secret Wars. And I think, of course, Secret Wars #1 will be very, very popular. Maybe we're going to get the Beyonder, but I could also just see them going with it being a Doctor Doom event film for Secret Wars. And if that's the case, it's going to be the Hickman books that really pop off. So I decided to pick up one here. It's just a great cover regardless. I mean, that Reed Richards against Doctor Doom there. And then Secret Wars #1 is just the #1 issue. I think there are other books within context to that. Secret Wars #3, I believe it is, where we get first God Emperor Doom. If they do the storyline for that, I think God Emperor Doom will definitely play a role. All right, the next book I have here that I think is pretty interesting is Avengers Annual #17. And what is the significance of this? Well, this is one of the issues within context to the Evolutionary War. Now, the Evolutionary War is a event crossover plot that took place in many, many books in the late 80s, and of course featured the High Evolutionary as the main villain. I feel, you know, pretty strong that we might see High Evolutionary as the Guardians of the Galaxy 3 villain. I think that them doing the Evolutionary War would make a lot of sense if they want to build to some event film with him. And this book right here is the culmination of the crossover, the one that occurs in the Avengers title. And I just feel like this is just, you know, has Avengers event film written all over it. I think it could be a great plot line. It's always been my speculation that this would be a great way for them to bring in the mutants into the Earth, you know, because High Evolutionary wants to unlock like the evolution within people and blow up this big bomb or whatever it is. And I feel like that could just be like the plot line that they take and port it to, you know, the MCU and say, oh, he's going to blow up this big bomb, and he blows it up, and then everyone's inherent mutant genes are unlocked, and now we have mutants on Earth. That would be, you know, if I was Kevin Feige and I needed to get mutants on Earth, I would go the route of that. I would have the High Evolutionary unlock all the mutants into our universe. All right, next one here I have is Avengers Annual #15. What is the significance of this? Well, this is the first appearance of a prison known as the Vault. Now, I know that this is a long stretch, and again, this is specs on deck. This is not spec books, this is specs on deck. But the Vault is a prison unit where they lock up all the criminals. It's kind of like the Raft, and this is just one that I think is really interesting overall, because I think that we're eventually going to get these military prisons in the MCU in some kind of way, where they're going to bring in so many characters. They're going to need to be able to put these characters on ice and put them in prisons. This particular prison is run by Freedom Force. I've talked about them with Val Cooper before. So this is one that I think is interesting. Again, probably never going to pop off, kind of like my Raft book, but you know, one that I still think is kind of interesting overall. All right, two more books here, two more books. This next one I picked up is Captain America 362. And what is the significance of this? Well, in my opinion, this is the first full appearance of the character known as Crossbones. This is also, in fact, definitely his first cover appearance, but I believe that this is his first full appearance of the character. Now, there's a lot of debate and discussion over this. He has 2 cameo appearances before this. He's got one of those weird cameos where he kind of shows up in the book prior to this one, and we see one panel with him, but it's kind of in the middle of the book. He's got no lines, and it's really, really, you know, doesn't relate to the story. So depending on where you sit in that side of the argument, you can make the argument that that's Crossbone's first appearance, but this one right here, I think is his first full appearance because he's got lines. He says his name, Crossbones, in this book. He's on the cover here. So I think that this one is really, really interesting for that reason. I also feel like, the Crossbones book is a perfect example of a book that, like, we got Crossbones in 2016. If we were to get Crossbones today in an appearance like that in some kind of way, these books would be so much more valuable. They would cost so much more money, considering like some of the prices that we're getting for these Disney Plus shows. So these are ones that, you can find these all the time for less than $5. And I think that this is a really cool one. I feel like it's totally possible we see Crossbones once again in the MCU. He's just got a great character design. I'm sure that actor would love to reprise the role in some kind of way. And now that we have the multiverse, I mean, even though he's already dead, we can easily bring him back into the fold. So I feel like we're not done with Crossbones. All right, the last book I have here is one that I have another copy already, but I picked up another copy. And this is one that I actually talked about in one of the first videos I ever did. I talked about spec books to buy for under $5. And this one is Mark Spector, Moon Knight #4. And what is the significance of this? This is the first appearance of a character known as Midnight. This is the Jeffrey Wild version of Midnight. Now, Moon Knight #3 from the 1980 run has gotten extremely hot recently because Midnight Man is projected to be in the Moon Knight show. But a lot of people don't know that in that storyline, Midnight Man actually ends up dying in that run pretty early on, and then his son, Jeffrey Wild, takes up the mantle of the character Midnight. And this is the character, this is the Midnight character that goes on to have a long historic run with Moon Knight here. It's kind of like their relationship is similar to the Winter Soldier Captain America thing, where they're sort of friends but they're enemies, and they kind of yo-yos back and forth. And that's one that I think, if we're sort of following the trajectory of the comic books and what we see in the Moon Knight show, if in fact they want to bring in Midnight, it feels like they might just kind of reference that guy's dad or whatever, the father of this guy, and then eventually that mantle will be passed to this Midnight right here. And then Midnight goes on to actually have a few plot lines, like in the Amazing Spider-Man run, and then he has like more plot lines throughout the years. So I feel like this would be the character that they would ultimately want to bring into the fold. So this is one that I feel like, it's been heating up just a little bit, but it's not quite the same as the Moon Knight #3 one. So I think that this is still a great pickup to get regardless. So Mark Spector, Midnight #4. Anyways, those were my recent kind of low-key spec comic books that I wanted to kind of show off to you guys. This is not a spec video. This is my specs on deck video. Just some cool books that I thought would be interesting to talk about and show off. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you guys think of any of these books are kind of cool. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys kind of like me just sort of talking about books and flipping through and spitballing and just, this is a very unofficial spec book video. It's kind of like a comic haul mixed with a spec video. Anyways, that is all I have for this one. Drop me a like, comment, subscribe if you're enjoying the content, and I will see you in the next one.